Now I'm going to pass the baton to Katie Gray. She interviewed Bradley Phifer with the Professional Dog Trainers.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate your time. So tell me, I will say it is really eye-opening for me to recognize that January is the National Train Your Dog Month. Tell me a little bit about the initiatives on really the importance for pet owners to make sure that they are getting their dogs trained.
I think one of the important initiatives right now for National Train Your Dog Month is simply to remind dog owners that dog training is an unlicensed profession in the United States. So anyone can identify as a dog trainer and offer services to the public. So it's really important that consumers are doing their due diligence to interview potential dog trainers to confirm that they actually have demonstrated competence in some way, that they are receiving continuing education, and that they are following best practices in the industry. One way that they can do that is by hiring a certified professional dog trainer through the Certification Council for Professional Dog Trainers. Those individuals have passed a rigorous examination, testing their competence in dog training. They're held accountable to standards of practice and code of ethics for our industry, and they are required to employ positive reinforcement as their primary training strategy when they're dealing with both clients and dogs. Everyone knows that positive reinforcement is the best way to train a dog, and that is it really places an emphasis on their well-being. But there's still a number of trainers out there that will use more antiquated methods that might provide some immediate fixes, but over the long term could cause damage to the owner and their dog's relationship, or maybe even create a bigger problem for themselves. So,
oh wow! So there are right and wrong ways on going about training.
There are many ways to train a dog, but the industry is really moving away from the antiquated methods that talk about you have to be the dominant dog or the pack leader or the alpha dog, because many times when you start using those words to describe how to engage with a dog or train a dog, you're automatically going to more punitive methods. And we know both through experience and science that dogs learn best when they are well managed, well exercised, and when owners take a proactive approach to employing positive reinforcement based strategies to teach the dogs things like sit, come and call, go to bed, stay, and really focus on engaging with their dogs in a way that allows the dog to learn how to be a good citizen. And older methods oftentimes let the dog get over a threshold, let the dog misbehave, and then want to correct them for misbehaving. And I think we know as a society, we are more moving away from that kind of ideology as well.
Well, do you also think that ends up reflecting on, I know that you mentioned about the relationship between the owner and the dog, but also what about even the longer terms on those behaviors being able to be more conditioned?
So I think what I hear you say there is, or at least where my head goes, is we're looking at our dog as this being in our home that is sitting around trying to be the alpha or trying to get one up on us. I think it automatically puts us in a combative state. Well, you're not going to be alpha, I got to be alpha. Or if I'm not alpha, then I feel bad about not being the alpha in the relationship. And so I think it puts us in the wrong headspace, the wrong dynamic when we are engaging with the dog. And when you take on antiquated methods as your training style, then I do think a lot of times you get into this back and forth with the dog. And that combative relationship can really deteriorate the human-animal bond. And I think when owners aren't proactive, right, we allow the dog to self-manage. So we put the adolescent dog in the backyard while we're at work, and they are barking at the neighbors. They are running the fence with the neighbor's dog. They are digging in the flower bed. What the dog ends up doing is self-managing in ways that we don't want the dog to do. And so those undesired behaviors of digging, barking, rushing the fence, those do become conditioned. And so if we take a step back and we just take a proactive approach to the dog's daily management, that might mean that he, stays in a kennel during the day while we're gone, or he stays in the laundry room behind a baby gate while we're gone. And then when we're home, we make a point to make sure he's getting appropriate exercise, he's getting appropriate training. The dog's behavior will be conditioned in a way that he then becomes polite, well-mannered, obedient, listens to commands more easily, and is more responsive. It'll be a more integrated part of our family. Excellent.
And then does it also, I would imagine for multiply beneficial. It helps with kind of setting like a clear, healthier boundaries and then expectations for the obviously for the owner along with the pet.
100%. I mean, each of us as dog owners have to decide what are the rules of our house. My dog sleeps in bed with me, and that's okay. But I also have the ability that if I don't want her in the bed because I don't feel well, or I just want a night where someone's not sleeping next to me, I can tell her to go to her dog bed or go to her dog bed and sleep there. She's resilient enough. And so, we can make whatever rule we want to make in our home. I think what has to happen in a home is the family has to decide what are the rules of the house. And when one family member is allowing the dog to say, jump up on them when they come home, and another family doesn't like it, another family member doesn't enjoy that, or we allow the dog to jump on us because we love the dog, but then we want to scold the dog when guests come over, we can create a lot of confusion. When the dogs are confused because of our lack of consistency, then their behavior can also deteriorate. They can become more anxious. They can become nervous around unfamiliar people. They can become more exuberant because they're just not sure what to do. Can I jump? Can I not jump? Am I supposed to sit? Am I supposed to lay down? Like, what do you want from me? So I think that the thing that we can do the most for our dogs is just decide what are the rules of our house. What are the expectations for our dogs, and be consistent with implementing those expectations in our day-to-day.
Excellent. And do you also would you also advise from a professional standpoint on proper ways for people to understand and appreciate different resources for training on, the time frame of, I know that there's a lot of talk about certain ages for certain dogs, or maybe if they've been trained, but then it's been a long time and the owner hasn't been consistent with those practices. What are some advice that you would give?
You always have to be patient with your training. Dog training is not something you can just do and end in a certain session. So you can't take a 6-week class and your dog is now trained. You can't do a 3-week board and train and now your dog is trained. The classes and the lessons and the board and trains, whatever the program is, that's designed to lay a foundation. And once you have that foundation, it's up to us to implement and maintain the behavior through daily reinforcement. And so a lot of times, when you have a puppy, we have clients who will, send their owners who will send their puppy to training, and they send it into a 4-week training program. Well, even at that, if your puppy started a puppy class at 10 weeks old and he did a 4-week class, he's still 14 weeks old. 14 weeks old. So I think what we tell people all the time is training is an investment. You start early to prevent problems from developing, and then you continue to do incremental training programs throughout the first 2 years. So maybe we do a puppy class in the first 4 to 6 months. And we do an adolescent dog training program from 6 months to a year. And then we do a young adult program from 12 months to 18 months. And that might be individual lessons, it might be a board and train, it might be a day training program. There's all sorts of training programs that are offered by professional dog trainers. But you really have to stay on top of training for the first 2 years in order for your dog to, you're hitting all of these developmental points. Sometimes, as we've seen, life will simply fall off, and we get busy and we don't maintain the training. So we gotta revisit some things. That's all normal. I think it's important to also note that dogs can learn at any age. So even if we didn't make a commitment to training when our dog was young, and now the dog's 12 months old or 2 years old, and we say, we no longer want a dog who's jumping on our guest, or we no longer want a dog who is barking at neighbors as they pass by our house. As long as owners are willing to adjust their day-to-day interactions with the dog and adjust their behavior to a certain degree, control the environment more, adjust how we engage with the dog can learn new behavior patterns at any age. Certainly the older the dog, the longer the behavior has been occurring, the more resistant it might be to change, the harder it might be to resolve. But if you give a dog a committed owner, the dog will learn, and their behavior can change for sure.
Wow, I really appreciate that, because I think you're right. I think a lot of people think, I put them in that one class when they were, a couple months old, and now they're good. And I really love the advice about exercising patience and maybe not looking at it so like as a linear process. Yeah.
It's more holistic. And I think the other thing that happens too is, a lot of times we as owners, we train our dog, like they can sit in the kitchen and they will come and call in the backyard, and they might walk really well in a certain section of our neighborhood. But we don't always generalize that skill to practice come and call at the park, or to practice come and call in the front yard, or we don't expect them to listen as well when guests come in, right? We don't take the time to practice our skills in front of strangers as they enter